Otis quickly mentions it's nobody's fault unless you go to the original source.
Airlines are concerned, the airlines, we're going to back the airlines 100%. It's not their fault. It's nobody's fault unless you go to the original source, but it's nobody's fault.
Wait a minute. So what is the original source? What is he talking about? He's letting everyone know that it's nobody's fault unless you look at who actually started this. Where did this come from?
Bill Gates owns the patent for the coronavirus. President Trump gave a press conference the other day, and in that press conference, he said, we know where the virus came from. Within minutes, less than 10 minutes, you guys, of President Trump ending that press conference, Bill Gates stepped down from Microsoft. All right. So people that have been following Q for years now, you know that the White Hats have been putting these cabal members in submission for years. And that's why we've seen literally thousands and thousands of cabal members leaving their positions as CEOs or politicians, whatever their job is. We've seen thousands of them step down from their positions and or resign. Okay, they're all being put into submission. Okay,
and then we have Bill Gates. So the press conference. I've been trying to keep up with at least the majority of the press conferences, and the one where Trump came out and issued the national emergency. Literally, either simultaneously or right after that, Gates comes out with a statement on LinkedIn. And it starts circulating saying that he's stepping down from the board of Microsoft and Berkshire Hathaway.
Yeah.
And I'm working on that. Because here's what I'm going to tell you, something that most people probably wouldn't pick up on. I have studied this man for a long time. I know his language. I know his savior complex and his ego. I know how he words things, even in his interviews or articles they write about him that he probably gets a final say in. He in his statement, it was very vague and simplistic, very unlike him. So this is how it should have read. I'm stepping down from the board of Microsoft and Berkshire Hathaway to put my focus on this pandemic that we are all being confronted with, and yada, 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 yada. He did not mention the virus at all. The man who declared it was a pandemic. No, he said he's going to focus on global health and climate change and whatever else, and didn't even mention it. And I'm like, now this is strange. This is not his language at all. So what is he really up to? So I'm looking into that because I'm always tracking these people and looking at their next moves.
Well, I hope you do, because as you know, his father was a eugenicist, sat on the board of Planned Parenthood, maybe I think headed up Planned Parenthood for a short period of time at some point in the 60s or so. But the family's a eugenicist family. And Bill Gates, do you remember when there was a meeting of the billionaires? It was a secret billionaires club meeting, which involved, get this, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Oprah Winfrey, Ted Turner, who's also a eugenicist who believes that the world is overpopulated, and others. I think George Soros was part of that. And they called it a secret club of the billionaires. It was reported in one of the UK papers that one of the topics was overpopulation and evidently depopulation measures. And then you have Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation heading up this Event 201 in October, which simulated exactly what we're seeing now with a worldwide pandemic based on or on the back of a coronavirus. And now that's what we've got.
I know it is. It's very curious, very curious. And then there was also the, what was it called? The Pandemic movie that came out on Netflix as well. I think there was some ties to Gates on that as well. They've been talking about this. And then of course we have the World Bank. What was it, 500 million in pandemic bonds or something to that effect back in 2017, which is when Jim Young Kim was the president of the World Bank. And I did a report on him because he has been deeply embedded with the Clintons and Gates and Paul Farmer for decades. They've been working together on projects. So it's the same circle of people. I've been working on a book called the we were just talking about this a minute ago, trying to remember my own title. It was, is AIDS 90 billion taxpayer dollars?
A
Yeah,
global
a global
slush fund.
slush fund.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we struggled with that title.
And,
Yeah.
and
Is AIDS US $90 billion taxpayer dollars a global slush fund?
yeah, I was so I've put out 3 chapters already. It's probably going to be about 25 chapters, and it's a culmination of all these NGOs and who's running the healthcare industry. But I specifically isolated it to the AIDS slush fund because that one is huge, and it's a $1 trillion industry. But I'm focusing on the funds that are coming specifically from our government via PEPFAR and going into the Global Fund, and which is Bill Gates is the Global Fund. He's also obviously the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He's also Gavi, the Global Vaccine Alliance, and he's got other organizations as well, all nonprofits. And so it's interesting that while I'm trying to expose that and show how they all work together and run the entire healthcare industry, and how they extrapolate all the taxpayer dollars from us to do this, that all of a sudden this virus hits. It's like, which totally threw me off my schedule, because I've been trying to work on chapter 4, which is the Gavi Global Vaccine Alliance of his, but now I'm kind of like shifting gears and focusing on what's going on with the coronavirus. But I just want to read you this quote I have from 2008. This is a doctor, Dr. Artara Kochi, who was in charge, the former head of the WHO's malaria program. So this doctor was right there front and center. What some people might not know is Bill Gates is completely in lockstep with the UN, and he has funded the WHO $3.5 billion. So he kind of keeps the WHO afloat. I mean, these people are a very tight-knit group. And so, and of course, with his global fund on AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria, I can tell you that the former head of WHO's malaria program was definitely on the inside and knows a lot. So he said, he raised serious concerns about the Gates Foundation undermining scientific creativity that could have implicitly dangerous consequences on the policymaking process in world health. And then he said, Gates has created a cartel with research leaders linked so closely that each has a vested interest to safeguard the work of others. The result is that obtaining an independent review of scientific evidence is becoming increasingly difficult. And we know this. I mean, we know this from the vaccine industry. Anyone, any scientist, no matter how world renowned or documented in medical journals, comes forward and questions it, it's immediately squashed. And the WHO and Gates, they'll come out and say, no, that's all a hoax. These are anti-vaxxers. We've already, we have the science on this. When they don't. It's just, it's maddening.
Well, yeah. And you know that they're going to try to, at some point, usher out a vaccine and force everybody to take it in the name of ending this pandemic. And we already know that vaccines are not safe and effective, and that no safety and efficacy testing has been done by Big Pharma on any of the mandated childhood vaccines. None. No safety and efficacy testing. They're not required to, because they get blanket amnesty against lawsuits if their product hurts, harms, or kills you or your children. So they don't give a shit about doing the testing. They just want to create new vaccines as a profit center.
Absolutely. They want to make money on it. And did you see just yesterday, they passed a law in Denmark making it forcing, they passed this law that runs through March 2021, a year. For the next year, they can force treatment, testing, and quarantine on their citizens. And even though they don't have a vaccine yet, they're working on that. Can you imagine? I'm telling you right now, people, if I cannot see any of that happening with Trump as president right now, but I'm just telling you, if it ever comes a day where they try to force vaccines on all of us, including adults, man, people better take a stand.
Well, and that's kind of where I was headed when you and I first spoke today, right? And I hadn't hit record and we were just saying our pleasantries and catching up on life.
Right.
I said, what's deeply disturbing about this is we know they can take our wealth. Look what's going on with silver today. By the way, there was an intraday move from high to low in gold of $1,000. That's lunacy.
Mm.
Silver down some 12% today. It hit 1170 at one point. I just bought a little bit of silver a week ago, I think at 18. So silver should be a safe haven. So my point is, we know they can take our wealth because they manipulate everything. And if they're going to burn this thing down, they're going to take silver and gold probably with it if they can. But if they can take our health too, then all bets are off, because people get scared to death when they start to see people they love get really, really sick. And if you watch what's going on in Italy right now, there's some Italian doctors that are getting the word out about.
Bill Gates owns the patent for the coronavirus. President Trump gave a press conference the other day, and in that press conference, he said, we know where the virus came from. Within minutes, less than 10 minutes, you guys, of President Trump ending that press conference, Bill Gates stepped down from Microsoft. All right. So people that have been following Q for years now, you know that the White Hats have been putting these cabal members in submission for years. And that's why we've seen literally thousands and thousands of cabal members leaving their positions as CEOs or politicians, you know, whatever their job is. We've seen thousands of them step down from their positions and or resign. Okay? They're all being put into submission. Okay?